Retail Cafe, a new episode of ETRetail. Where we are covering 100 retailers. Today we are at Nalli Silk Sarees. Tell me a woman whose wardrobe doesn't comprises of Nalli Silk Sarees. I am very sure each and every woman has a special place for Nalli Silk Sarees in their own wardrobe. So without any further ado, let me introduce you to Lavanya Nalli, who is the chairperson of Nalli Silk Sarees. A very warm welcome to ETRetail Cafe. So tell me about yourself, about the brand. We want to know a lot more from you. So before we start, I want to delve deeper into how Nalli Silk Sarees started.
Okay, so that's a lot. I'll try and do justice to it. So thank you for having me on the show. It's quite an honor. I am the fifth generation in the family business. Nalli Silk started in 1928. That was when the company was registered. But if you look at us, we are not traders or business people in the classical sense. We come from a community of weavers. So our family and their involvement in the weaving tradition goes back to the 1800s and before. So we've been in this business, so to speak, for many, many generations. And then I think we formally established Nalli Silk Sarees 5 generations ago. That was 1928. Today, the ancestral property is still there. My grandfather still lives there. He runs the flagship store. My father is there who took it to its next level of growth. And then my brother and I have joined in this past decade. And now we've got 3 generations running it.
So you always wanted to join the family business, and how did you grow up? Have you ever always seen your surroundings? I mean, elders talking about the business, talking about saris. What inspired you to join this business?
So I think I'd say that my career is a series of happy accidents. I never really planned it, but one thing led to another, and I always had a vision for the next 2 years, maybe 3 years, with the idea that the world is dynamic. You never know, right? So even if you have a 5-year plan, you can't budget for a few things. I grew up in a very different India, 1980s, Madras, so fairly conservative, and our own family is also fairly conservative. So it was never an aspiration or an idea for women who were going to school and who were children at that time in the 80s to aspire to go into the workforce. But 2001, I did the dutiful thing. As a good daughter who is good in math and science, had to do engineering. And so that's what I sort of went into. But by the end of my engineering degree in 2005, I did a couple of stints at a couple of tech companies. And I had some time and I wanted to do something in the supply chain of Nalli. And it started with an RFID project, but that's when I really saw the business from a business standpoint and I became quite interested in it. Till that point, what I'd seen it was as a family member, was as a child growing up. I would rip through that store. If you've been to Nalli Chinnasamy Chetty, the old store in Chennai, which was where it all started. There was no nannies, no childcare, nothing. I'd come home from school, throw my bags at my home, which was the ancestral home on top, come downstairs. Every salesperson is a nanny. So that was, I mean, whether they liked it or not, but that's how we all grew up, right, in the family business. So I've always grown up having that comfort, familiarity, that love for it. I've seen my mum, I've seen my grandmom, I've seen all the women in our family and the relationship that they have towards saris. Then I've seen the other side. In the store, I've seen my all the men in the family taken on this as their identity, right? And then the women who come to the store and their relationships with saris. So it's always been a very positive, very heartening kind of a emotion that I've had toward it. And life took on a happy accident and I got into it full time.
So the passion flows in the blood, we can say that.
Yes.
Yes. So being a fifth generation entrepreneur, what were the challenges for you to break in the business specifically, and how did you overcome them?
So I always make this statement that in India, every 5 years there's a generation shift. It's not so in the rest of the world, but here that is the case. 2005, I entered the business. At that time, I didn't know what I was doing. I was an engineer by qualification. I didn't have textile background, design background. I didn't have business background. So sometimes your ignorance can end up being your strongest advantage, because I came in knowing I knew nothing, learned from everybody, the salespeople, the store VPs, the regional heads, and I got a really good understanding. And I tried a few experiments and launched a few product lines, experimented a few things my first 4 years. Then I went abroad. I went to Harvard Business School for my 2-year MBA and joined McKinsey. And by then, I think my parents had decided that, okay, she's on her own track, right? Like Harvard and McKinsey, she's not going to come back. My husband and I decided at that time to come back to India for other reasons. And Myntra, this was back in 2013, was really breaking the scene, right? They were doing really well and they were becoming mainstream in a big way. They had just been acquired by Flipkart, or they were in the process of being acquired. I interviewed with them and worked with the old team. I joined them as a VP in their revenue division. So that was my 7-year stint outside of the family business. And it was wonderful. Every single mentor that I've had, everyone that I've worked with, I think I've learned so much from them, and I'm very grateful for how they rounded out my experience. Now I came back to Nalli after 7 years away, and it was very different. There was a reverse culture shock, right? What I saw 2005 to 2009, it's very different when I came back in 2016. And then but when I came, I had a very clear plan. This time it was different. I knew that e-commerce was a channel that was here to stay. Even if in the early days it was nascent and discount driven, that it would become a legitimate channel. And this is something we need to crack. So I spoke to the family and I said, look, if y'all aren't having any reservations, can I pick it up? And they said the same thing that Nalli always says, which is, okay, you do what you want, but you make sure it's cash flow profitable and you have a plan for yourself, and then you need to run it, and then you need to run it on your own, and you need to grow the business also, because I want you to put your talents towards something that's going to be meaningful and purposeful, impactful for the organization, the community at large, but also, via profits, because that is the only way that you can ensure business is a force for good. So I took it on as a challenge, came back. That was 2016. Now we're in 2023, and I think doing well.
So, what are the challenges that you face changing the thinking of the family? We should go and adopt tech in a big way. We should go for opt for omni-channel, and we should bring in those challenges. So, were they very happy about it, or were they like, no, this is traditional business. We want to get like a traditional business the way we have been doing it?
Most businesses who are very successful doing things a certain way, I think would resist any change, because that change is unproven and unknown, right? And especially if it's in the hands of someone who hasn't done it before. Now, I have had that experience in McKinsey, Myntra, all of those other environments I was in, but I hadn't run my own business as a founder. And so I think to your point, it was exactly that. There was, I wouldn't say resistance, but I would say a little bit of skepticism to say, look, we know what we are doing. We know how to grow the business. We know how to grow it organically, how to grow it in a very strong, steady, sustainable manner. And we know offline, and we know brick and mortar. I don't dispute what you're presenting in terms of the opportunity and the landscape online, but it's untested, unproven. We don't have those skill sets because this is a complete disruptor to the industry, right? So in a way, it kind of worked out where I had that conversation to say, look, I'm not asking you to do anything. I'm saying I'm going to do it, right? And then, of course, my CFO and my father, they said, okay, you do whatever you want, but, don't waste your life, right? You should have, don't waste your life. And they came back and they said, Amazon always runs on so much losses. Flipkart runs on losses. All these companies run on losses. They're all fueled by easy money. I mean, that's not the case today with the interest rates being where they are. But they had a point back then. And they said, you don't have that kind of a war chest for you to go into deep losses for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, till you have shaped the market. So how are you going to survive in this market when your competitors online, their entire marketing budget is probably 5x of your entire company's top line. And we are a very frugal, profit-oriented and cash flow-focused business. So they kind of gave it to me in terms of not challenges, but things to think about. And said, think about this, think about this, think about this. Nalli is not going to change our core values. You will have to find a way to make a profitable, meaningful business within the core values. See if you can do that. I thought about it, came back and said, okay, 3 years. 3 years, let's fund it. I'll keep my costs very low. By 3 years, I'm going to break even. By 4th year, I'm profitable. I am plowing back my own profits back into the business, reinvesting it into my own growth, and hopefully having something to give back to the corpus, because I do want to grow the overall business as well, overall Nalli business expansion and new initiatives and things like that. Took me 3.5 years, but we got there. And I think that's the long answer, right? You can't tell them anything. You just have to show someone that it can be done, and your small wins kind of buy that legitimacy to have larger wins and take larger risks and pursue larger opportunities.
That's true, Lavanya. I mean, this is a very true. I mean, it is difficult at times for us to make understand our parents what we want to do and how we are going to bring that change in the business going ahead. So, one thing I want to know, there must be some values in the business which have been flowing from 1928, and how are you bringing those values to the business today and making those values alive? Because Nalli was an aspirational brand earlier. It has been an aspirational brand till now. People love to buy Nalli sarees. So what is that is keeping consumers hooked to the brand now?
So we have certain brand values, but I want to talk about the family values and the business values, right? These are the core values of the company that set the culture. And everybody that we work with works through, I think, kind of self-select into that culture and into that ethos. Our values in broadly, right? But if I can just go through it, it's product first, it's customer, right? Anything for the customer, having a very strong service-oriented, customer-oriented mindset. It's being frugal. It's focusing on operational excellence. It's treating your employees also like an extension of family. So I think these were the core values. If you look at it, nowhere in that do we say things like innovation, right? We say product, but we don't necessarily say design. To us, all of that sort of collapses into product. It sounds fine, like we have fine sort of core values, but if you actually go through it and see what we are saying, we are also defining the kind of company we are by defining what we are not. And what I mean by that is, we've taken an everyday fair price strategy. Number one, we want to be known as the retailer, design shop, like sari retailer, whatever you want to call it. But we want to be known as the destination when it comes to high quality saris. High quality saris, regardless of what the need is for the consumer. If you're someone who's looking for a wedding sari, we will have the highest quality and the widest range made available for you at a fair price, right? You can get very high-end quality products. You can get very good designs. You may not necessarily get it at a price point that is as strong as us. And the only way that we are able to make it work, and I'll give the example of Nalli versus a high-end designer. A high-end designer will focus on a few pieces. So he'll do maybe like 12 pieces in a collection, maybe with colors and everything about 15 or 16. A lot of R&D and everything that goes into that. Same is the case with Nalli. We have a very strong design unit. A lot of sampling, iteration, working with the weavers. Same with us, right? He will not make any compromise. The zari has to be pure zari. The silk has to be like pure silk, woven in Kanjivaram with that level of thickness, right? The weave, like he goes into everything. Is it handloom? Is every part of it, so he goes, if you're doing pure zari, it has to be hand woven. There are ways in which those who know their saris will be able to kind of determine what the quality of the sari is. So a designer really takes a lot of effort into doing that. He doesn't compromise on the product. But then he says, I've spent so much time on it. What now all of that has culminated in a product. I've given it to my weaver. the weaver will get it done for say 12,000 rupees or 15,000 rupees. I will sell it for 80,000 or 85,000, right? And the reason is because he says I put so much heart and soul into it, design, iteration, quality control, checks. Even if there's like one fiber off, we send it back, right? Or we destroy it. We don't let it come out. What Nalli does is the exact same thing, but what we get for 15,000, we will sell for 20,000 or 21,000. Many times our customers tell us, I've gone to Kanjipuram directly to the weaver, I can't get it. And I say yes. Because what we've managed to do is to make high quality products accessible to every woman. So to us, that's our beating heart, right? Quality does not mean that the average woman is prevented from buying it. Quality doesn't mean it has to be a designer label at a designer price tag. The way that Tanishq is there in jewelry, every woman across the country for their needs will kind of go there, and it's a high quality purchase, but they know what they are paying and what they are getting for it. The same ethos and that world is where sort of Nalli resides. So then from there, the rest of the values come in. We don't have the margins to do this kind of high marketing, to do price it high and then discount it. We basically say, look, every day fair price. Innovate, innovate, innovate. Don't compromise on quality. Don't compromise on design. And really focus and optimize on wastage, try to reduce the waste, try to innovate with the weavers, try to focus on operational excellence, right? Try to get your forecasting right so that the waste in the system is really low. And if you do that and you run a strong business, that same sari which you've gotten from the weaver at 15K and selling it for 20K, right? So you're making 5K profit versus somebody else who's making, say, 60K profit. That 5K profit, you'll be able to sell it to so many more women. So many more women will get a chance to own a very high quality heirloom piece that they can pass on. To me, that's what keeps me excited about the business.
Passion flows, shows actually, Lavanya, to be very honest. So you must have seen the consumer behavior changing for almost say 100 years now in next 5 years, because 2023 we are here, it started in 1928.
Yeah.
2028, 100 years are going to be completed. So how will you describe the journey of consumers, of their changing behaviors in these 100 years?
So in the 100 years, I think there's been a lot of changes. I'll talk a little bit about what I have witnessed, right, in my own 30 plus years and what I've seen. The consumers' association with saris, right, their emotions towards saris and the kind of relationship that they have with saris, I've seen it take 3 shifts. I think initially, like I said, growing up in 1980s India, and it was a very different mindset. A lot of women wore saris out of habit and also out of a certain safety and wanting to conform. It was the thing to do. Everybody sort of did like how like a good South Indian girl, went and did engineering. I think most women did that, right? You wore a sari because there was really very few women who did not wear saris back then. And especially if you were a bureaucrat, a teacher, or someone in the medical profession, and even today you see that. It's almost expected of you. So the sari was a garment worn out of habit, worn out of societal customs, worn out of wanting to conform, and there was a psychological safety in that. Then we went through that shift, I think, post-liberalized India, when we became a much more open economy. The internet came in, I think, late 90s. A lot of things changed at a societal level. So I think early 2000s, I started to see the shift, the second shift, which is women rejecting the sari, right, out of an act of rebellion. So to them, to be a progressive woman, a modern woman, was to reject the sari, right? It's to wear modern clothes, it's to, do modern things and to watch modern TV shows. So it was a total sort of rejection of our customs and everything. And that was the second wave, right? And this was early 20s, which is still 20 years ago. And if you see the last 5 years and beyond, right now, and I call this the third wave, where I see consumers and I see women having a more balanced relationship with saris. They recognize the heritage of India, the legacy of India, the crafts, the weaves that we have, things that are being done today in our country at a handloom and a hand woven and a hand embellished manner, that craft and that skill set just does not exist anywhere else in the world. To the extent that Nalli, like we ourselves, have sourced a lot of products, made a lot of products for Hollywood shows and a lot of TV shows. The stylists reach out, and these are international TV shows. So I won't say it because I'm not sure what the protocol is on that, but millions and millions of subscribers, right? Like to shows on Netflix, on Amazon Prime, international shows which have like either an Indian woman or they have a character that has some kind of a association with this part of the world. We've sourced those products for them. It's not necessarily in a sari, but they come to us because they know that we stand for high, for high quality and that kind of design and so on. A lot of the costumes, haute couture, which is done for Hollywood cinema and extremely big budget movies, all of that handwork is being done in India, right? It's done in Mumbai, it's done there. So this necessarily isn't Nalli, but I'm saying that's the richness of India. That was forgotten. It was sort of understood, I think, till the 80s and 90s. Then it was forgotten in that phase of modernization. Now I think there is a coming back to it, a rediscovery by our customers, where they look at it and say, I don't wear a sari out of habit. I wear it out of choice, right? I don't wear it because I have to wear it. I wear it because I get to wear it, right? So you get a choice. You can wear a lehenga for a wedding. You can wear a blazer for a wedding, right? And just deck yourself up in jewelry. You can do whatever you want today because our society has really opened up. And in that more inclusive and open atmosphere, it's very heartening to see that women are coming back to say, wait, hang on a minute. I want to embrace something that our country is known for and that we have like very good quality products in and that we have very good brands in. And there's a certain pride that comes in, and they call it slow fashion. But saris have always been slow fashion, right? So I think there's that pride and that rediscovery, and that's the wave we're in.
So Lavanya talked about how you brought the e-commerce change in the business. I mean, did you also help in adopting the technology that ways for the Nalli sarees, for the Nalli Silk sarees?
So there's yes, and I think I want to add with a caveat. Tech is a big sort of domain, right? And a lot of our retail stores and our offline stores, they kind of run in a fairly self-sufficient manner. Those tech systems have been built and developed in-house by our CFO, and he keeps updating them as and when needed. Those requirements really are, so the nice thing with a homegrown system, it's been thought through really well for exactly our requirements, right? Everything from financial reporting to whatever it is. And so that system can flex. The demerits of a system like that, and I don't think there's any disadvantage for us per se, but what it means is that we really need strong vendors who can understand and who can work with us at that level. Today, what you see is a lot of vendors who are used to, oh, okay, are you on Salesforce or are you on Adobe or are you on one of these other platforms? If you're on these other platforms, we know how to plug and integrate. But the moment we tell them, no, we're on our own platform, it works really well, I think there's a dearth of talent who are able to understand, and they make the sales pitch, but they don't have the technical know-how to say, okay, wait, I've got to really understand from first principles, what is it that you need? So that system, because it's not broken, we haven't really fixed it. I think as and when opportunities come up, we keep growing that system, building upon it. For e-commerce, we literally had to build from scratch, right? Because e-commerce, you need a website, you need you need some kind of transactional layer that goes on it. Then you need a data layer for doing all of the analytics and analysis. I think that was the part that I really enjoyed. And somewhere, and I was joking to my father, and I said, after so many years, I've gone back and I'm using my engineering degree because it's been almost 20 years. I left that field, and now I'm discovering, okay, it gives me a little bit of fluency in that. But of course, these days, it's really quite easy. It's very easy for an entrepreneur or any business to say, hey, I want to set up an e-commerce portal. Everything is so modularized, right? Whether it's Shopify or any of these other platforms, it's so plug and play. You decide what fits for you.
Yeah.
You get the skins, you get the transactional layer, you get the commerce layer, you get the data layer, you set it up, you're good to go. 2016, which isn't really that far back, it was actually even tougher than that.
Okay. So Lavanya, before we close it, I want to know what other changes you're planning to bring in the business going ahead.
Like you rightly pointed out, 2028 is our centennial. I am very excited for that. We've got quite a few projects in the pipeline. The big one is, if for those of you who've seen Nalli and have been following Nalli for a while, design has come back into the forefront in a big way. We've always been a very design-centric, product-centric brand, but almost shy in our marketing because we believed, and I call it that very South Indian, Tamilian, discreet nature, right? There's that saying in Shakespeare, a good wine needs no bush. So I feel that it's also a very South Indian, Tamilian trait to say that, no, we're not going to blow our own trumpet. The people who know will know. Interestingly, today, if you see, there's all this talk about quiet luxury, right? And the flippant sort of but true definition of quiet luxury is those who know. Someone will know that you're wearing a Bottega Veneta even if you don't have a label on it, right? Someone will look at it and say, okay, that cashmere is from, it looks like it's from Loro Piana. So they'll kind of know even though you don't have the label on it. You don't need the big Gucci label and the big Louis Vuitton monogram, right? And I feel like Nalli has always been that. So when you go and you meet with like a high profile bureaucrat or a diplomat, right? When you go on the world stage, when you meet with people who come from a certain section of society, you will recognize, right? It's not the Sabhyas. It's not, I mean, with all, and he's wonderful, and what he's done and how he's put India on the map is phenomenal, right? But a very different strategy that he approached and a very different problem that he took, and he's cracked it really well.
Yeah.
But Nalli has always been discreet. I think now we've sort of realized that we can still continue to hold that core, but we should also innovate when it comes to marketing in today's world. How do we take the best parts of our brand, right? What we're known for. It's luxury products without that price tag, because we believe in this philosophy that every woman deserves a high quality product and it should not be out of reach. How do we take the tenets of those brands and communicate that in a way that really resonates and makes a very strong emotional connect with our consumers wherever they are? And so bring back that brand, up to your consideration set. So that's the journey that we're on. We've got the products cracked, we've got the business model cracked, we've been really into design in a big way. And I think you'd have seen a lot of new products coming in beyond Kanjipuram, beyond wedding, beyond Banarasi, right? Like in organzas and digital prints. And we've got like 2-3 other collections that I won't leave the cat out of the bag, but it'll be out in the next 6 months. So I think this is all a precursor to the 100 years celebration, where we've got this and we've got a few other very big projects in the pipeline.
Really looking forward to all those projects, Lavanya. So before we close, I want to do a rapid fire with you, where I won't give you a time to think, but you'll have to answer the questions like very quickly.
Okay.
Favorite business book that you love, and what have you learned from it?
The one that I can remember recently and comes to mind is Shoe Dog, I think, by Phil Knight, the person who started Nike. What did I learn from it? It's hard to synthesize, but I think there's something about you just resonate with a business owner and an entrepreneur and someone who's gone through that journey, the highs and the lows, and how you've got to just persevere through it all.
So if not in the family business, what you would have been doing?
I have no idea, but my father says you fight so much with everyone, you should have been a lawyer. So we'll never know now. He gets the pleasure of my company fighting with him every evening.
So everybody knows that you are the face of Nalli Sarees and you have been running the show right now. But one thing that nobody knows about you, what do you do in your free time?
So I used to be pretty fit. I think I say I used to in the past tense, but I used to love crossfitting. I haven't done that in a while. I love the outdoors. Any opportunity that I get to go on a hike, and living in Bangalore, The weather is so nice, and there's so many lovely sort of day hikes around. So I think just the outdoors, working out, it's beautiful. It gives me a disconnect. When I was younger, I used to write just for myself. I have been published for 3 children's books, but I think I used to enjoy writing short fiction and all. These days, it's all PowerPoints and bullet points and Excel. So I think that skills become very rusty.
So Lavanya, you have introduced e-commerce to your brand. Where do you shop from? From online or from offline, and why?
So I do both, and I do feel that there's going to be a convergence coming up really soon. People used to feel that, oh, there's an offline experience that you can never capture in online. As the virtual realm becomes more and more sort of real, I think that understanding might become outdated very soon. I mean, we saw recently what Facebook and Meta have released, what Apple has released in terms of the VR headset. And then we've been talking about the metaverse, and we'll see where that's going to go. But I think all of the signs are pointing towards a very convergent future. So I do think that the offline experience is going to be enhanced by a lot of technology, which is going to bring that offline experience fully into one's living room. And I think that's the future that I'm looking to.
One retailer or the brand that you admire a lot?
I think it has to be Nalli. I can't think of anybody else.
Apart from Nalli, it's their own baby. You have to love it. There's no other option. So which other brand do you love and why? Maybe the retailer, if you want to talk about, I'm okay with that as well.
Yeah, no. So in India, I really do like brands like, I love Good Earth. I think that Good Earth has done a phenomenal job of popularizing, what India is known for and putting that on the global map. I also really like this company called NPEAL, P-E-A-L, and that's a brand that does like cashmere, and it's known for, they do not really pashmina the way that it's defined in India, but very fine wool, very fine cashmere. Loro Piana is another one that also does. So as you know by now, I have lived, for a person who's lived in Madras for 25 years of her life and is from Chennai, I think I've got a set of at least like 15, 16 pashminas that is, to me, worth as much as my Kanjivaram saris. And the interesting part was I bought all of them after I had left Boston and Chicago, so I don't have any winters now. So we'll see where that's going. But yeah, these are the brands that I really love them for their ethos, how they've sort of held the line on quality, how they've sort of like held the line on design. But every woman, same thing, right, can feel like, yeah, you can access this luxury. It's not beyond your realm. Maybe you just have that one piece in your wardrobe, but in that one piece, you don't compromise, right? You have that one piece that you cherish, that you love. It's so beautifully made. And you don't feel like, oh my gosh, it's only worth this much. I think I overpaid. You walk away with a good feeling that, no, I can't get this anywhere else.
So you love what you own, that means.
Yeah, yes. Yes, I am a true blue consumer, and I think my... all of my friends call me like a die-hard capitalist. I don't think they say it in a good way, but I think, I've learned to sort of embrace the parts of myself which are what they are.
And that is what makes you what you are today, Lavanya. Thank you so much for being a part of ETRetailCafe. It was a pleasure having you over here. So next week, we'll be coming back again with a new retailer, a new story. Till then, keep watching us and keep following us over all social media channels. Thank you so much. Till then, bye.